I'm Mark Valley, and I have a new podcast where I spot, assess, and have coffee with spies, operators, and agents over stories of action, diplomacy, and intrigue.
Check it out at markvalley.com. It's the live drop.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Nate Boyer.
This is Hilliard Guest.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Rob Bell.
This is J.R. Robinson.
This is Dan Stone.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, I'm Mark Valley.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hey everyone, it's Chad Michael Collins. I'm here with Pete for the Break It Down show. You may recognize me from the Sony Sniper military action franchise or BYUTV's new sci-fi series Extinct.
And now, the Break It Down show with John Leon Guerrero, Mark Valley, and Pete A. Turner.
Hey everybody, it's Pete A. Turner here. I'm at Patty's in Toluca Lake, where we sometimes, I guess we probably could call it our Patty's studio. We've done several of these things. Today I have the great fortune of sitting across from Chad Michael Collins. It's really cool to be able to sit here in the sun, and thankfully no fire in this area, and have a chat in the morning. So I appreciate your time. You actually have an Extinct shirt on.
I do.
Repping the franchise.
Yeah,
I like it.
You know, it's the lovely people at Marketing PR that threw me a little gift package
freebie
with a bunch of Extinct type gear and merchandise.
I love it.
Shirt fits so well. It makes it in my weekly rotation now.
I've simplified my uniform. I guess I've not really simplified my uniform because I always wore a uniform. And then when I was in combat zones, I typically wore exactly this. Some kind of pants, but not like army pants, like jeans or maybe something khaki, but not like tactical khaki.
Right.
And then a t-shirt, ball cap, body armor, and that was my uniform. So I guess I've really not simplified at all. I've just changed what the simple is.
Right.
I wanted to cover this. You have been in a lot of things, and you've talked about a ton of them already. And so I don't want to waste your time talking about things that you've already covered, because people should go look at the content that's already out there. All you got to do is go to YouTube, type in your name. You'll talk about Extinct. You'll talk about Sniper. You talk about all kinds of stuff. And kudos to all those folks that have gotten you, because they've already covered this stuff. So what I want to do is acknowledge, one, you've been on NCIS. You've been on CSI. You've been on Once Upon a Time.
I have. Once Upon a Time.
As Frankenstein's Monster.
Frankenstein's Monster.
You have done a lot of things. You've not been on Hawaii Five-0 yet, though.
Yeah.
Man, what's going on?
Some of those shows get trickier. If I'm a company man for anyone besides, we just talked about four of the Sniper movies for Sony to this point. But I've also worked on like 6 or 7 CBS shows. Hawaii Five-0 has not been one of them, and I think it's because they shoot in Hawaii, so I'm the Howley. I'm not a local Hawaiian native. So
but you can play the Howley.
Less
like
parts.
You show up and you're like I'm doing drugs or something.
Yeah.
The funny thing is like that genre that's gone on and gone on for quite a while now. It used to be, I don't want to understate how hard it is to do this, but it used to be that having a long time running show, 10 years, was really hard. But there are so many franchises now that have gone on, and they've expanded. Like all of the Law and Orders that have either existed or still exist. The CSI stuff, the NCIS, these things go on for a long time. What's changed?
It is a weird dynamic. I think there's a lot of shifting going on, and it's the digital age here, and so you can tune in weekly to your NCIS procedural, where at the beginning there's a bad guy, at the end the good guys catch the bad guy. Next week, same characters, same bat channel, but it's going to be a rinse and repeat, and a lot of people love that, and I can understand why. But now we're stepping into this age where you can get everything all at once. You can get a Netflix show and watch the whole weekend, all 13 episodes. You can kind of consume your content in a lot easier way. And I think it's easier to tell that really involved storytelling, that one episode leans into another, into another, into another. That's less satisfying if you've got to wait a week every single time. It's more satisfying if you could just knock out as many as you want at your leisure.
I know you read a lot of comic book. Have you gotten into on Netflix? Like, I like Longmire. I just chewed up the whole season of it. And for me, that show is beautiful. The landscape and everything else. Have you gotten into it at all? Or?
I've watched a lot of Longmire. I've auditioned for Longmire quite a few times. I'm really good with that casting office, and I love the show. I watched most of the first season.
Okay.
But it is beautiful. What is it? They shoot in New Mexico. It's gorgeous and really well acted. and kind of that, it's country justice.
Yeah.
NCIS is running around here, and Hawaii 5-0 is running around there. This is old school sheriff stuff, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, he carries a long rifle all the time.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic thing. But the reason why I bring that up is how they tell that story. Apart from like the extra violence and stuff, it does have more of an arc. And on Netflix, because you're going to binge watch, you can be hooked episode to episode. Whereas like a Hawaii 5-0 or an NCIS, there's going to be like some love story arc things, but the multiple subplot things, it's a little tougher to do. I think you're right about that.
No, it is, and it just depends what your cup of tea is. Honestly, like I grew up in upstate New York, so shows like NCIS, The Name of the Game, all the CSI franchises, that those people love that, but they're also not consuming television 8 to 10 to 15 hours a week, like a lot of households are. And I think, if you're committing that much time a week to watch a good story, you'll be more keen probably to watch the stuff that really, episode 1 to episode 13, really takes you for a connected ride.
I'm just thinking now, Chips is a procedural, or was when it was out. And it's hokey and, not purposely campy, but now it's kind of campy, like looking back. Is there room still for campy kind of shows like that where they're so era specific that they don't age well, but in their own way they do age well?
Right. I'm trying to think of examples of where shows like that kind of still exist. But I mean, I grew up on Dukes of Hazzard reruns.
Yes.
So those are one-offs and fun. And again, you look at it now and it's like, that's kind of corny. We're showing up for Waylon Jennings doing the balladeer voiceover and then wrecking 1 to 2 cars per episode on these ridiculous jumps. But
one of my favorite things to ask to be in any kind of project is like, can I be like Waylon Jennings and be the balladeer? It doesn't matter what the project is. It can actually be a combat operation. Like, all right, you're going to be doing this. Oh, can I be the balladeer? I always ask that.
I can't blame you.
That up. Yeah,
I get the reference. I'm not sure a ton of people.
Yeah, well, you brought the reference. John is one of my co-hosts. He's down. He's a PI up in the Bay, and he couldn't come down today. But the other one is Mark Valley. He's a peer of yours. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Mark's work. He actually just started an MFA here in town and wants to get a Master in Fine Arts because he can get work regularly.
Yeah.
But at some point, it doesn't drive the passion. It becomes, like for anybody, it becomes work. It's great work. You're on location. You're doing incredible things. But I think if I was to speak for him, and I certainly want to be careful in doing that, he wants something more at this point in his career. Do you feel like you follow a similar path where you, at some point, will have to redefine what you do as an artist? Obviously, as a journeyman who goes out and gets work, you're going to keep doing that.
And I know Mark Valley, and I know his work, and I'm a big fan of his. In fact, I had an audition years ago. He did a show. I believe, sadly, it was a little short-lived, but I remember when they cast him in the role, they cast like his young partner. It was a cop, sort of tone to it. And I just remember my manager was like, you're actually perfect for the role, but they just hired Mark Valley. So since you guys look identical with like blonde hair, blue eyes, it's probably not going to happen. They're probably going to have to go in another direction just because it's too on the nose. I can understand. You see it all the time. Most people on the outside of Hollywood, they don't get it. Let's say you're an actor who's talented and likes the creativity of acting. 10, 12, 15 years of doing 22 to 25 episodes a year of the same thing with the same character, you can understand how people want to switch it up. They want to flex their creative muscles in a different way. And everyone on the outside is like, you're an idiot, all this money. But it's like, I guarantee you, all these actors got into it for the passion, for the love, for the creativity. And when you hit a ceiling and you've done 150, 200 episodes playing the same thing, doing the same thing, you can understand why. They want to mix it up and go in different directions.
We've had a lot of musicians on the show, different levels of success, all of them artists, so that they truly are musicians. The show hasn't aired yet, but we talked to a guy who's like, I play timbale, and I'm great at it, but I didn't get enough gigs to pay the bills, so I took a job meat cutting at Safeway. And there's nothing wrong with that. He still gets to do it, but he's got to find his path to it. Other guys that we've talked to get the gig, the house gig, in Vegas where they've done 6,000 shows. Same show, playing the bass and everything, but they have to find their artistic passion either in the details of what they're doing there every night, two shows a night for years and years.
Right.
Kind of like picking, would you rather have a boy or a girl when you have a kid? Where are you at, do you think, with that? Would you want to be in a long-running serial where you have a main part where you are not worried about work, but you also don't get the passion of, now I'm Frankenstein?
Right. No, I've been really lucky to have a big variety of roles, up to this point. And, I got into acting for the fun. I mean, really, it was, I grew up on sci-fi. I grew up reading comic books. I grew up playing with G.I. Joes. So Extinct, this series that I'm on now, beautiful, brand new sci-fi universe that we've created. And I love that because it's action adventure. It's sci-fi. It's all the things that I grew up loving and still love to this day. The Sniper franchise, I get to run around and be a G.I. Joe. Like, there's nothing more fun for me than that. I have a type in this industry where 75% of the roles I've been fortunate enough to work on, they're cops, they're soldiers, they're the uniform type. I don't know. There's something all-American about me where people can see me that way. And even now that I've been around the industry for a little while, I'm starting to play the bad guy versions of those things too, which is a lot of fun and keeps things interesting. Yes. So I love it, honestly. If I could just do sci-fi, comic book stuff, soldier stuff all day long, I'd be the happiest guy in the world. I never made it my goal, my vision to be like, I want as many Emmys as I can get. I want as many Oscars. I don't have an aspirations to be a Daniel Day-Lewis. I appreciate what those guys do. Yeah. But I'm not into the tortured version of acting, of the brutal method acting sort of stuff. Yes. I'm here to run around and live out my childhood fantasies, more or less, and I'm more than happy to do that. Are you more as long as I can?
Yeah, for sure. Are you more of a Mamet guy, where it's like hit your mark, tell the truth?
I loved his book. It's one of the first books because we were talking earlier. I didn't come out to LA to be an actor. It kind of found me, and I pursued it when I got serious enough about it. But David Mamet's book was fantastic. And what was the name of it? I can't remember. It was like the early mid 2000s when I read it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was basically that Cary Grant quote. Hit your mark, tell the truth, and there was something else, but it was all just simple advice.
Yeah, being on time, being ready to go. Like, they're not looking for you. You're just, I'm here in my chair.
I think that's what it was. Show up on time, hit your mark, tell the truth. I think it was something simple like that. For me, I like to keep it simple and black and white in that way. It doesn't mean that you can't get on set in a situation and really get creative and have fun with a co-star and make some magic here and there. For me, it's I don't have a 5-year degree. I don't have a Juilliard training. That actually got in my own way. When I started getting traction and success in this town, just by going through regular old great acting classes in LA, I didn't come from a hardcore Shakespeare training ground. I didn't do rep theater. I didn't do all this other stuff. So I was like, who am I? Yeah. And I'm like, actually, there's a place for me. Like, there's a place for someone who's never even acted. If they can do those things, if they can learn a line, if they can hit a mark, and if they can tell the truth, it's just as effective.
Well, and the truth is those three simple things are exceptionally hard to do. Yeah. And because telling the truth is what, like when you got your gig with Sniper, it was in part because you resemble Tom Berenger. And that's part of the truth.
Yes, it is.
When you show up and you're like, well, you don't look like Tom Berenger's kid, Right. But also the ability to understand how to play an estranged son. You don't want to do too much because then you're not telling the truth. You don't want to do so. You do have to have a knack. Yeah. And you have to develop that knack.
You do. That's exactly how I describe it. In the beginning, when I took my first ever acting class, I didn't know what I was doing necessarily, but I got it at a certain level. I'm like, oh, so I have a knack for this, but now I just need to put in the hours and the reps and get the experience so that it becomes an ability and graduate up that ladder. And that's what I did. I was very fortunate in my career because I kind of went the Brad Pitt, Channing Tatum route where everyone respects these guys. They're doing very critically acclaimed work now in their careers. But I think they had the benefit of having a thing that somebody saw or wanted or needed, and they got the chance because they doubled down and committed to it to get better with each project. And I've been able to get better by being on set.
And that also is a trait that you have to develop because there are people that are challenging to work with because they're trying to tell their version of the truth, and that might make them a shithead on it. Look, anybody who works at any place is like fucking Frances over in accounting. God damn, she's tough to work with, you know? But that's what Frances has to do. Mark has the ability to just drive women to want to see what he's doing. Right. And I don't want to make it like just because he's handsome.
He's cut from that Paul Newman cloth.
Yeah, there's nothing he can do about it. And I think you've got the same vibe where when you show up on screen, women, men, whatever, they're going to look at you and go, I get this person. Yeah. Your truth resonates with them in some way, whether it's an attraction or an affection or other kinds. As you try to figure out the acting thing that you have to do. Are you aware of that at all? Like, are there certain things like I got to throw that smile in there because that helps pay the bills? Or does that not enter your mind at all?
Not often. It's strange because it's such an, it's an audio-visual medium, and you hear like, oh my God, you got a great voice. Or, oh, your eyes are so blue in this shot. It's like, these are things that I've got my voice and I've got my eyes, and there's not much I can do to change that right now.
Right.
So if you gravitate towards that or respond, I'll take it all day long. But at the same time, I don't play into it too much just because it's those that, I stay in shape.
Sure.
And I try to take care of myself in this ways, but most of the roles require that. I enjoy it anyway.
Right.
I grew up playing sports and still play sports to this day, and just really enjoy the physical fitness. I'm glad that it's appreciated, but it's not my reason for being or doing it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you answering that question because I do try to illustrate some of the background things that aren't as obvious. The guys that when they just walk into the room, Powers Booth. When Powers Booth walks into the room, there's nothing he can do, but you're going to see dark. Joaquin Phoenix, there's going to be darkness. There's going to be some sinister air when Powers Booth shows up. And it's great to be able to monetize that, to be able to show up.
No,
So
it's like every actor has that essence, that brand, that type. And the character actors, your wonderful Gary Oldmans, your Power Booth, sometimes they can go all over the place. And, one day they can play Churchill, another day they can play Commissioner Gordon, and another time they're playing Sid Vicious from the Sex Pistols, like Gary Oldman. I mean, the character actors go a lot of different places, and they can be chameleons, and I think that's really great. Leading men, I think it's a little bit harder, but it's why you see someone want to break out. You see someone who's typically the hero or the good guy or known for that sort of stuff. You want to see him go the other way. Like Brad Pitt was always such a handsome, unbelievably attractive guy. He did all these movies, and then he Fight Club. Yeah. And he played against type, and he played this crazy split personality, insane version of this actual guy, and he just was all over the rails. And, all those guys, I think, want to fight against type eventually. Yeah. But the thing about Hollywood is like being typecast is not a bad thing. Ride that to the place of success where then you get to say, now it's mine. Now I want to go against it. Now I have the power, where people always said, I can't see you that way. Sandra Bullock, they all do turns eventually. When they reach enough juice in their career, they're always going to do that thing that speaks to them as an actor. That's something new, different, and totally against type.
I don't know if you know this thing, but the movie that made Arnold Schwarzenegger the most money was Twins.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's huge, great stories behind that.
Right.
How he didn't even take any money up front.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't give him a shot to do comedy.
And they're like, him and Ivan Reitman and Danny DeVito are like, all right, we'll just do this ourselves.
And I think I read somewhere that that's the most money he's ever made on any film ever, because they gave him a back-end deal and the movie was such a hit.
Such a monster hit.
And he took nothing up front just for the opportunity.
And that's really walking away money. Like, I don't have to do anything I don't want to do anymore.
It was all on his terms after that.
Right. And if you want me to do Terminator again, the number is bigger.
Yeah.
Always now. Yeah.
Right.
I was going to ask you, you play a lot of military and police roles, like you said, and you play the Officer Dick very well. How did that come about? Because you're not a dick,
Thank you.
And you're not.
I know we just met, but I appreciate that.
No, you're a nice guy. But also, like,
give me time.
There's certain, so a friend of mine is Jay Moore. He walks in. He's one of those guys who are like, that guy might be a dick.
Right.
He just has that, and he's a wonderful actor, super powerful. Like, he engages you. You're like, gosh, I'm getting over.
I'm a big fan of his. I've been listening to his comedy and watching his acting for years.
He's fantastic. But he definitely gets the dick thing, partly because that's what he brings to the party. I don't think that's the case for you. How do you get there?
Look, I think we've all got a little bit of that inside of us, right? We all have our bad days, or the bad versions or expressions of ourselves. And luckily, I do get to play the good guy. But you know what? It's clearly not looking to bite the hand that feeds me, but it's a little boring to be Captain America every time. Sometimes it's kind of fun to be someone just as capable as Captain America, but doesn't give a rat's ass about what you think or that or whatever else, or like, that woman, that actress is hot, like, co-star actors, professional, not catcalling for the sake of catcalling.
Right.
But just being able to play that wild card of a character where you can just kind of say what's on your mind.
Yeah.
Because these things happen. We're all human beings. You have these thoughts, and the wild card characters just don't have any filter. Right. And it's fun. It's really fun.
I hadn't even thought about this as a topic with you, but since it is so topical, and we can certainly steer away from it if you want to, but there is so much tension right now, and there's so many skeletons in so many closets, and I'm not asking about your personal stuff, but what do you think? on this, the craziness that's happening.
Yeah. Now it's strange in the past, probably month and a half, 2 months now. It's you expect to wake up every morning and see something else. It's just kind of the house of cards is crumbling, and it's almost kind of like, all right, every single day you can kind of bank on one or two industry people, getting accused in this way. And I actually think it's a great thing. I don't think you can work in this industry and not have, if nothing happens to you directly, and clearly this happens to women way more than men. But as a man, I've been on sets certainly where there's been a lot of boundaries crossed. And there's been, you could see the predator thing, you can see the, preying on, you can see all this sort of stuff happening. And I've got some, kind of crazy direct experience. But you know what? I had this conversation the other day. At the end of the day, if someone's going to try to pull that stuff on me, I know that I'm a capable man in this way.
Right.
I mean, Harvey Weinstein's probably twice my size, but I still know that there's probably a way, if I was put in that situation, where I could get out of there, escape.
Right.
Most women don't have this option,
right.
And it's just not part of their physical stature, so it's incredibly tricky and insane. And I'm happy that it's happening. Honestly, there needed to be a reckoning for a really long time, and I was talking to a friend the other day, and I said, the beautiful thing that's going to come as a result of all this, because it's always, having done this, lived in this acting world for 10 years, the most mystifying thing to me is, because, like you say, you get on set, you start working with somebody, and you're like, how did he get approved to be hired?
Yeah.
This guy he doesn't want to be here.
Yeah.
He's phoning it in. Just unpleasant to be around.
Right.
So difficult to work with, and not on time, not prepared, doesn't care. I'm like, how is there no vetting process? If you do a job interview in any other industry, they're going to do background checks and this and that. Just make sure you're a decent human being.
Right.
So I think in the aftermath, what we're going to see is there's going to be a conscious move towards, hey, there's a lot of good actors out there who are all capable of doing what we need them to do creatively in this role. But why don't we hire a good person as well? Why don't we hire people that are pleasant to be around as well? And Pete, you would be shocked at how little people care, industry tastemakers or people that are at executive level, about that very important X factor quality. But it makes all the difference in the world when you're talking shooting a movie for a month or for 6 months or 8 months. Could you imagine being around people who are just miserable and they just never vet in that way? They just don't care.
I can't imagine, because in my world, you got to be a pro. There's pros and there's people who aren't pros, you know, and if I'm going to go on a combat patrol, now I'm not an SF guy, but I've worked with top tier 1 guys, SEALs, SF. I know what it takes, and I know to shut my mouth and let my work speak for me, and then you're in, and it doesn't matter because you're a pro. But you don't say, I'm a pro, because the guys that come in and say, I'm a pro, I've killed a lot of people, they're all full of shit.
Yeah.
Until they prove otherwise.
Right.
And the guys that say that don't have it in them. And so, absolutely, especially like in the military contract world, because the military is trying to bring in a resource it does not have and does not want to maintain and pay for the next 50 years, right? So they hire out a resource, an analyst, a question asker, something like that. And they don't care about the quality of the person. They care that there's a butt in the seat.
Right.
And then the people on the ground deal with it. And I've absolutely had people where they go out on a patrol and I've done this. I'm good at war. And so when they bring me back the information, I'm on the same patrol and I read it and I'm like, this is not good enough. And it's not going to be a report. It blows their mind because they're like, they're getting paid a lot of money. They feel like they're established. I'm like, what you've written will tear at all of our credibility with the command. You've asked terrible questions. You weren't in charge of this interview, all these things, and you cannot, and I'll tell them, you cannot go out on another patrol.
Right.
Not where I'm at here in this camp where these people are putting their life on the line and you're not prepared.
It needs to be a standard.
Yeah. You cannot get that person off the team, though.
Right.
A specific person, there's a lot of them. She at one point was losing her control of her emotions because combat's a rough place.
Sure.
And you could see, and you'll appreciate this, you could see emotions ripping across her face. Anger, rage, laughter, all, but in a chaotic way where she was not in control of what was going to represent on her face next. And there's a thing in the military where if someone is cracking in a war zone, you can literally physically disarm them. And I say attack. That's because you can like
About your safety
slap
now.
them in the face. It's about everybody's
Safety in
safety.
your company, yeah.
And so I see her doing this, and I'm thinking through my head, will anybody support me if I backhand her and take her weapon? And you backhand to shock and disarm.
Yeah.
Because this is a person
Not to
who's-
hurt, but just to snap them out of it for a minute or surprise them.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And how literally thought, how softly could I hit her to do this? Because I also have a gun that I can't have, you can't get in a 2-gun wrestling match,
No.
And I'm having these thoughts go through my head, and I realize no one's going to defend me. No one here is here to watch this.
Right.
And so I've got to find some other way to deal with it. And there is no other way.
Right.
Like, it just worked out well. So I asked her, I'm like, I'm really worried about your well-being because combat's hard. And it's a place where people make terrible decisions and hurt themselves. And she looks me dead in the eye. All her emotions calm down, and she says, I'm not the suicidal type. I'm the homicidal type. And I'm like, how can I not pile drive you right now?
Right, yeah.
So I get that what you're saying about the lack of preparation and the status, earning the job or whatever.
Because at the end of the day, you're right. I always call a TV show or a film, it's a miracle.
Okay.
It's a miracle. You got to think. Somebody dreamed this up in their beautiful mind, and then they had to go and find someone to buy it. And how many rejection letters and this and that. And then they surround themselves with a team at a production company, and then they get financiers involved, and then they get some people that greenlight it. And then there's months of pre-production. And then you shoot the production itself. And then on the back end, it's post-production and trying to sell it and distribute it. And I'm just talking at the indie level. There's so much money, time, energy, and hundreds of... You see the credits roll. Mm-hmm. You see the credits roll on an indie film, it's hundreds of people. You see a credit roll on like a Marvel film, that's like thousands of people.
It's so many people.
So why would you ever shortcut the process by getting the one guy who's going to be... that proverbial cancer on set. He's going to make everyone's day miserable. He's going to be hard to work with. He, she, whatever. I'm just saying there's just something at the highest level. Like, why would you take a shortcut there? I guarantee you there's enough capable, wonderful actors in this industry where you can get the performance, you can get the creative, you can get the star value even, if that's what you need to sell a movie. But you could also not have to suffer. It's enabling. When someone is a bad human being and they keep getting told yes, you think they're just going to wake up the next morning and be like, you know what, I think I've been kind of a shit. I'm going to just pull a 180 all of my own volition. They're not.
No.
It's an enabling situation, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse as they keep getting told yes.
Yeah.
And it's a wacky thing. And maybe it happens in a lot of other industries and sectors as well, but in the entertainment industry, it can be just kind of mystifying.
I'm weighing 2 questions to ask. I'm going to get away from the assault stuff because that is speaking for itself, and that story still being told. When it comes to being a shit, there's also what I need to do my job. Hey everybody, Pete A. Turner coming at you here, asking you to check out my technology podcast called Popping the Bubble. There's no E on the end of bubble, B-U-B-B-L. Sandra Ponce de Leon and I, we get in and we demystify what's going on in the Silicon Valley. You want to know where we're headed? Come check us out.
Right.
And there is a line there. People go across it. And it's easy to represent someone like, that's funny, by the way. Did you see their little Christmas tree tied to the top of their car?
It's all of a foot and a half, but strapped down regardless.
Totally.
That's funny.
Someone like Mariah Carey's I'm thinking about, where it's presumed and projected as being very diva-like. I need flowers in my room, the AC at 72, all these things. On the other hand, she's performing night after night. People are spending $500, $1,000 a seat. I need to be in the right mood. Yeah. That's the flowers. I have to take care of my voice. That's the temperature. I need these things because, like anybody else, I have a buddy that does backstage stuff for Joe Walsh, or for the Eagles. And when Joe Walsh goes to get dressed, he needs to have the pants he wants, where he wants them, because he lives in that little room on the road 200 nights a year.
Take care of this stuff so that I can just be creative and entertain. But you know what? It's also accountability. And I've learned this to the other end.
Okay.
First of all, I take everything with a grain of salt in this entertainment industry. People like to talk. It's a game of telephone. Things get blown way out of proportion. So when I hear through somebody who was in a makeup trailer with so-and-so on this show way back when about how awful this person was, I'm like, was he? Was she? I'd rather experience for myself before I just, get on the bashing train. So, a lot of this stuff gets construed the other way. But at that level where you're talking to Mariah Carey or the Eagles or whatever else, it may seem like to the average Joe, middle class, low middle class, it may seem like insane behavior. It's not what it is. It's accountability. And Mariah Carey doesn't create her own contracts. She has a team of lawyers and managers and people that know.
Right.
And you read stories over the years where it's like they'll put ridiculous things in their contract just to make sure someone's paying attention, because you don't want to land in wherever performing, and you find that you're working with a bunch of promoters who actually just wanted to get you there, and now they're leaving everything to chance. It's an accountability thing. It's if you can pay attention to details, make sure we're good, we're going to have a smooth ride and a great performance.
Yeah.
If not, things can go really wrong really fast.
Curtis Mayfield died because he got crushed by his gear,
Right.
by the stage setup.
Yeah.
And he didn't even die right away. He was paralyzed and then died of the injuries years later.
I heard that when I read this a long time ago, and maybe I'm, reciting it wrong, but the whole like David Lee Roth, Van Halen, Green M&M thing, it was this little tiny thing in his contract, and he almost never exercised that. Like he wasn't insane and said, "Oh, there's no all green M&Ms in a bowl in my trailer, and then I'm going to leave." Mm-hmm. He basically said that they did a concert, and they had so many people that wanted to come to the concert. The stage was not safe.
Right.
They had to build the stage. It was not safe. So he said, "We will build this thing into our contract that everyone will overlook. So if we don't feel like we are safe, we will be able to legally get out of this and not endanger ourselves."
Right.
That's what the green M&M thing was about, from what I understand. Which is incredibly smart.
It is a smart.
People will cut corners.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It did like that dude last winter or whatever, when he had the high end food and had the whole concert he was going to do out in Jamaica, wherever it was, and it wasn't. It's criminal.
That's right, where everybody got trapped.
Yeah.
The Fire Island, what was it called?
Whatever
Something
that
like
nonsense was, and they were serving bologna sandwiches on white bread.
Yeah.
This isn't gourmet. So you're right. There is that thing. Is that when it comes to what I need to do the job? And look, Meryl Streep gets to say whatever the fuck she wants,
right?
Because she's at that level. But you also can't just be a shit. And I'm not trying to say Meryl Streep is a shit on stage, but there are people at the highest level that are a pain in the ass to work with. They take that I need these things to elevate themselves to a different level of attention.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sure you've experienced that. When is that line crossed? I mean, accountability, I'm going to do my job. I'm doing my job. You're using my name to get more money to make this movie. Right. So this is not outrageous behavior, but then it is. Where do you think, can you describe where that line is, you think?
I mean, I've seen things with filming over the years and this and that and whatever else. And, you go to like an NCIS, we were talking about that earlier. What a wonderful set. Like, what a great, well-oiled machine. Cast all the Mark Harmon all the way down. I mean, I'm there as a guest player.
Yeah.
You've already got like 75 episodes in the can. I'm here for just one.
Right.
I'm going to work 3 or 4 days out of your 8-day shooting schedule. But like, just such gracious people. Shaking hands, how are you? Let us know if you need anything. Just such a beautiful level of respect. You show up on other sets and it's like, there's a vibe there where you can tell that there's friction and things aren't smooth and maybe castmates don't talk to each other by season 3.
Right.
And you're just kind of like, okay, how do I stay out of the way? I don't know what it looks like. And, the funny thing is, and this is why I don't make generalizations or just like big judgments in this way, because every situation, every television show, network, studio, actors being paired together, there's a million variables and you don't know why.
Yeah.
Certain casts don't talk to each other anymore or had an infight or the writer doesn't communicate or the director doesn't you don't know. Like, it's such an individual basis. Like, it's hard to make a general sweeping statement about any of it because there are a million variables. Like I said, hundreds of people involved in this.
Sure.
And, hopefully it's beautiful when it all clicks and it goes so well.
It is.
But you can understand why things get a little crossways sometimes. It's a lot of personalities, a lot of egos, a lot of money, a lot of schedules and deadlines, and it's a lot of 14 to 18-hour days, especially for the crew. So, like I said before, I'm blown away because it feels like a miracle every single time that something just gets made in this town.
Yeah.
Because it's so many X factors that go into it.
Yeah, and there's so many people that are trying to take the next thing. Do you still, at the point where you're at, do you feel the pressure to say yes to everything? Because you want to be a person that says yes, not a person that says no?
I don't feel the pressure.
Okay.
My important thing in the way that I go, and I've been fortunate to play a lot of lead roles, even on the smaller stuff, the Sniper franchise, whatever else. And I think when you're number one on that call sheet, when you're the lead role or whatever else, there's a responsibility there. And I take that responsibility seriously. And I like to know everyone's names by day one. I like to make sure that even the lesser actors or the extras that are brought in for that day feel like they have a voice, feel like people listen to them. I like to collaborate with my actors and like, hey, let's run lines over here and like make sure we're cool and ready to rock. If it's an indie film, you're not going to have multiple takes. So let's make sure we're ready to go. And if you have questions and you don't feel comfortable approaching the director, come through me. I'll talk to the director because I've already established that rapport with him. And I really relish that. And I think it's nice. And it's a little disheartening to see people who have the opportunity to step up as a leader and they don't. And they're not approachable and they're not willing to bridge that gap. But that's not everyone's personality. I like it. I enjoy it. And so if there's something that I need, I'll have the conversation way out ahead of time and we'll work it out. Like it's no big deal. But, I don't wait until we're ready to roll and then be like, I don't like my pants. It's too late in the game. Or I don't like this line. It's like have a conversation. Email the writer the night before. Just be a human being. Have a common courtesy. Have a professional courtesy. And it'll all work out. It's common sense.
Do you know Hilliard Guess? He's a writer.
I don't believe so, no.
He's got a show. You should do his show. One of the things, the reason I hooked up with Mark Valley and became friends was he was on Hilliard's show. They did like a panel together for like emerging veteran writers. And Mark talked about the things that happen on set that you wouldn't know about. Like when you're in a two-shot side-by-side walking and like you're talking to the president and Kevin Spacey's on the inside corner, Kevin's got to know to slow down and rotate slowly. Otherwise, you're like around the corner, and chopping of lines. It's like there's certain things you do that no one else would know, but you're fucking with either fun or you're fucking with like you've been a pain in the ass.
Right.
I'm gonna get. So it's a really fun thing to.
I remember shooting.
Yeah, please tell me.
This is a story like that. So one of the first kind of like bigger television guest star roles that I had was on CSI Miami. I think like the last season. I know they went on forever, but. So I do this. It was great. I got to play this like cage fighter. It was like kind of like a guest lead. The whole episode revolved around me and my character. I got to do a bunch of MMA choreography with a former UFC fighter who kicked the crap out of me. It was awesome. Like I loved every part of it. But I had a bunch of scenes with David Caruso, and everyone had said all this stuff about David Caruso, and I'm sure a lot of the stories are true. But again, I like to come in with like, I've never met you. I've heard things. I'd rather see for myself.
Yeah.
Totally open-minded, open-hearted to this guy. The guy could not have been more lovely to me.
Right.
For an actor who was young and not experienced, he was incredibly complimentary. He was so nice. He was so kind. And I was like, this is the EP lead of this show. I grew up watching his movies.
Yes.
Like, this is really awesome. I'm so glad that I came in with an open mind. But there were certainly moments where you saw that like season 8, season 9, like, David has a family. He had kids going to school in the nearby. They wanted to be shot out by 10, 11 in the morning. So the entire schedule was to get him out of there before lunch.
Right.
And so, looking for me, I'm like, I got all these lines. It's going to be great dialogue with David Caruso and the other actors. And, David shows up just before we start shooting, goes through the script, and he's like, we don't need this. We don't need this. He just starts chopping pages. And they're all my pages. And I'm like, oh! But what are you going to do? What are you going to say?
Yeah.
There's plenty of other things, luckily, to sink my teeth into for that episode. But I'm like, no, you're right. Like, these things are going to happen. He's the star of the show. He's the executive producer.
He's the reason why the show exists.
He's getting rid of entire pages of my dialogue. Yeah. And I'm like, maybe he sees something I don't. I'm inexperienced. I'm going to go with the flow, certainly. And I'm like, you know what? 25% of a TV episode gets left on the editing room floor anyway. So that it's always going to happen. I think he just understood the process front to back and back to front, where he was just like, we'll save everybody the grief.
Yeah. How long do you think it takes him to look at a script to know his lines? Because it amazes me. Like, I've got a good memory, but what you guys do, you definitely build that up, and it's incredible.
I mean, some people, especially your soap actors, who are cranking out 10 brand new pages a day.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. And I had a taste of that on the Extinct show. I had some days where it was like 2-3 days in a row of 9-10 pages of dialogue and stuff. And it takes a little work. Some actors can pick it up like that, especially your soap actors, because they have to. It's just it's a muscle.
Yeah.
And you've got to work it. But then I've also worked on, certain shows where the stars who've been stars of the shows for years and years and years and years, they got all sorts of cheats. They got lines written in their hand. They're at an office situation. They've got their script right there, just below where camera sees it, but they're just reading off and they know all the editing tricks where they can say 1 or 2 lines at a time and then look down and steal the next line. They know it's going to be edited out or it's going to cut to the other person. So you see it both ways. Personally, I love being completely memorized because that gives me the freedom to play with all sorts of different stuff. So
I love the little detailed things that you learn about. Like Jay tells a story all the time about Tom Cruise when they're doing Jerry Maguire, and Jay's talking to him, and Tom takes his finger, sticks it up by his chest, and gives him like a stage direction. Like he's so hyper.
He feels the light being blocked, or he
something,
feels
right.
something going on.
And the shot is over Tom's shoulder, so he's not even necessarily in the shot, but he fixes Jay. And Jay had a time where he's like, oh, Tom doesn't realize where I'm going with what I'm doing right now. But the whole time Tom did.
Yeah, I did.
He left the room. He's like, not left the room. He left space for Jay to do it. He recognized it, and he's just so goddamn good.
I tell you what, I've learned so much, like I said before, by doing. If I'm in the middle of a scene and I get into my dialogue and I'm leaning and my body's a little bit more animated, and then I see a shadow across my co-star's face.
Yeah.
If it's my coverage,
yeah,
I know that I can keep going with it and they'll be able to use that take. Mm-hmm. But if it's the camera's on somebody else, but I'm just trying to give them a performance that they can play off of, and I see a little shadow creep across the face because my big old head's in the way.
Yeah.
It's all people say. Acting, well, that's easy. Anyone can do it. I'm like, dude, when you get in front of a camera, there's so many, a million technical things you have to juggle while also trying to give a really great, truthful, emotional performance. Yeah. It's a lot trickier than you would ever think. And it's something they don't even teach you in acting class.
Right.
Like you have to be on set to learn these things.
There's one, it's a great story, and I don't recall who it was, so I'm going to say Olivia de Havilland, who, by the way, is still alive.
That's right.
At like 104 and still on to sue your ass if you're messing around.
Apparently, yes.
But, and it wasn't her, but it was one of her peers was talking to someone, not Clark Gable, but someone really high level, and they were doing a two-shot, right? And it was over her shoulder, and she said, darling, look at me with your left eye and look at the camera with your right because you're over my left shoulder. And he's like, I didn't know that was a thing.
Right.
And you would never know that thing because you can't learn that in acting class. Like, that's too detailed. You need to work on the basics. And when they say stuff like that, it blows me away that those things exist. I know they do, but when you hear about them, you're like, I would never have thought about that.
Yeah, and it applies to the audition process, which is a whole different animal in itself. And I don't know if Mark's ever told you about, and maybe he doesn't have to audition nearly as much anymore, but the audition room is insane. Like, it's got nothing to do with what you're going to do on a set, but it's the only way, I guess, to vet and hire your actors in this until we find a better way.
Yeah.
But you're in a frame like this. It's from the top of your head down like to mid-chest. There's not a lot of wiggle room. It's very inorganic. Sometimes you're auditioning with a scene where there's 5 characters in the scene, but there's only one reader with you. Right. So it becomes very technical in an entirely different way, and it's a totally different skill set. The whole thing is incredibly technical, as you can imagine.
When you get roles, but you have peers that are like you. So when you show up in the audition room and you're in the waiting room and there's 8 more you, you got to deal with that too, because you can't be a dick to yourself because you guys are all going to be in the same room over and over
again. We're all from the same petri dish. Hilarious.
Exactly. And you're not all carbon copy, but you get what I'm saying. Like they're looking for a certain thing. What are the rules in that kind of situation?
I'm not a big fan of waiting in that room. I'll go hang out in the stairwell.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse, at least for me, where you're in a tiny, cramped little casting office and the door is closed, but you can hear everything that's happening through the door. And I'm like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know what they're doing. I don't want to, if they're good or if they're bad. If they're good, I don't want to get psyched out. If they're terrible, I don't want to get an overinflated sense of like, I can't wait to bring my good stuff. So I just let it go and usually leave the room. But, actor energy is strange. It's weird. We're in a career, at least like your mid-level actors, where I typically am or gravitate around, always looking for the next job. You're told no.
Yeah.
9.5 times out of 10. I mean, probably more than that.
Probably.
So it's an entire industry built around rejection. Everyone's looking for a reason to say no to you. There's very few people that are looking to say yes. Too big, too small. We need brown hair. We need blonde hair. We need brown eyes. So many things. He looks like my ex-boyfriend. Yeah. It could be a million things that are just so out of your control that you just have to control the quality of your work and put up the job that you do and the performance that you do. But, I find that most actors, and maybe it's just me because that's what I put out there, they're kind and they're cool. But most actors I find are just kind and they're cool and they're grounded. But I've certainly known my fair share of people who are very insecure and the rejection breaks them every time, but they can't get over it. They don't have the mental toughness, the stability on the inside. And I always say you got to have thick skin in this town, of course, but you've got to work on the belief in yourself, because until you start believing in yourself truly, how can you expect everyone else in this industry to?
That's straight out of Hilliard's answer book, too, because one of the things he talks about in screenwriting is when you go pitch, don't start with your idea.
Yeah.
You pitch yourself.
Right.
You have to get them to believe in you. And you're like, and this is why I need to tell you this story about this drug dealer who has a cat.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
they're hiring
huge.
you. You're selling yourself in this industry.
Right.
Especially actors in that way, because it's an audiovisual medium. This is what you see. So you're your own salesman.
You talked about David Caruso tearing script, pages out. And again, he's an executive producer and a long-time established act. Even if he wasn't a producer, it's his show.
Yeah.
And as we deal with a lot of writers in the show as well, and that's hard on the ego. But you also have to accept that the people that pay the bills get to do that. So someone who's trying to, I don't know if you got the writing bug in you at all. I mean, you're from upstate New York. I can't think of a single TV series that's been focused up there. So I bet you have some ideas. But
It'd be pretty unexciting. I got to be honest.
I'm up in Buffalo, and it's cold.
We're either shoveling cow crap or shoveling snow, depending on the season.
But as someone who's out there who's thinking about trying to get into the writing game and trying to figure those things out, actually, we have Jeff Calhoun, who's the founder of WeFixYourScript.com. He will give you 15 minutes of his time to help you understand what your script needs. If you want to get involved in a transaction with it, of course, great. Do that. Look on the website. All that's available. But the thing is this is a town of no's. But there are yeses, and they are looking for that next thing. And I want to talk to you about Extinct and BYUtv, because that's fascinating to me. But as someone who's out there listening and trying to get into writing, you need help to understand the rules. We talked a lot about the rules. Olivia de Havilland's story, but all these things has a language. When you read a script, you're not reading a script saying, I'm assuming, you're not going, oh, God, this thing is terrible. Like it's a professional product by the time you see it. And that takes time to figure out. Do you have the writing bug at all? Or
I don't. I have such an appreciation for writers and what they do. And that's not to say that I won't grow into that eventually. But I love reading scripts. Is my favorite thing in the world. Because I'm like, somebody poured their heart and soul into this thing for countless days, weeks, hours, maybe months or years. Yeah. And from where I stand, and a lot of actors aren't this way, I love to honor the writer's words. Yeah. Because every word, especially if you're doing comedy or television, it's a writer's medium. It's very specific. Right. And I love to honor that. And my creative challenge as an actor is like, how do I make your words work? That's on me now.
I love this.
And a lot of actors don't. They just, if they don't find a way to line up with it through an acting process, they're like, why don't you just change that line for me? And I'm like, I want to find a way to make that line work. I want to challenge myself, and I want to honor what this person poured so much energy into.
Jeff came out a couple weeks ago, and I'm trying to write a script, partly because I've got a peer review published article thing. I've got all these things. I've never done that before. If it gets made into something, I'd be like you. I'd be blown away. I'd be like, oops, I don't know how this happened, but I want to write it just to challenge myself. And he said, one of the things you don't have to do is explain everything. Right. I need to give Chad the ability to go, I know how to do this, right? So I need to give you the least amount of words for you to be able to tell the story. And when Jeff told me that, it opened up my ability to say, I just need to have the big pieces of the story. Let the director worry about the shot. Right. Let you worry about the facial expression and just give you the and I dig that you're saying that, because it really brings home what he did, because it made it a lot more accessible.
There has to be a trust, And I know that you're a writer and you're jamming at your laptop or whatever else, but the end product is going to be, like we said, that audio-visual medium. Yeah. And I know it's hard to have these beautiful, specific ideas in your mind, and you're not, maybe you storyboard it or whatever else, but at the same time, it's like, eventually an actor's going to have to tell that with their eyes, or a look, or whatever else, or the set's going to have to do the talking, or even the costumes, if it's a period piece. You have to trust in that and not just like exposit all over the place just for the sake of making sure everything's clear. The audience is always smarter than you think. Yeah. So I feel like if you give them a visual representation of what you need or where you want to go, they'll pick up on it.
Do you think that your fondness for comic books drives that willingness to work with the those kind of limitations on words? Because comic books aren't really wordy ever.
Not always. Right. We get the advantage of a pow. Yeah. Or a bap or a boom, once in a while. But no, they're not. They're told in that beautiful, and I love graphic novels. I still read graphic novels and comics to this day. Panel to panel. You've got the action and you've got a little bit of dialogue to support it. But the pictures do the talking. And I love that, and it's, in a weird way, that's what we're making in TV and film.
Yeah.
But, I like I said, I respect the writer's process, maybe because I don't do it. I don't know good from bad. Obviously, you get your hands on something, and you're like, this is phenomenal, because it affects you at a level. And then you read something else, like, well, this is a little choppy and whatever else. But, again, you can trust in that audiovisual process. You're going to have a director. You're going to have sets. You're going to have other actors to play off of. You can take, arguably, a bad script that's not so tight, and you can make a good product with it, because this is just paper. We have to transform it into something.
It's such
over here.
A great way to explain that, because I'm having these images go through my head of the actor with the expression, and then all the action going around them too, and very little that has anything to do with the word that's being said.
Yeah.
Yes, you got to that point because of the story, but when Brad Pitt's standing there and his hair is blowing and he's looking calm because he already knows the explosion's coming, and you're like, what a bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's neat to hear you explain that. I want to change gears and talk to you about Extinct, partly because I wanted you to talk about the project, but also BYUtv, excuse me, what? What is this? I mean, this is incredible that Amazon is exploding with the amount of content they're creating. Netflix has basically said, we're just going to pump stuff out and let it catch. And if it goes viral, great. But they're spending a ton of money. They're saying yes, a whole lot more.
Totally.
BYUtv.
Right.
I'm going to shut up.
Yeah, so BYUtv is, owned and operated by Brigham Young University. They've got a cutting-edge digital arm where they put out their own content, and it's all free. Yeah. It's fantastic because it's independent. It's privately owned and operated. It's all donor funding and everything else. So everything on BYUtv is free content. And it's not a big network, but they've got a long-running sketch comedy show called Studio C.
Yeah.
Millions of followers on YouTube and some really, really funny skits. But, they're a values-based network. They're putting out content that the whole family can enjoy.
Right.
Their network motto is see the good in the world.
Okay.
So we made a really family-friendly sci-fi show. It's like Spielberg, man. It's like Spielberg in the 80s. And we're not going to hit you over the head with the skin like a Game of Thrones or ultra-violence or anything like this. It's got action. It's got adventure. We do some fighting and mixing it up and maybe a little bit of blood. But, ages 5 through 85 could all get something out of it because it is deep and complex for the grown-ups as well. But BYUtv wanted to make a push into competing with your Walking Deads and your AMCs and the other FXs. All these people are putting out great sci-fi shows, but they're doing it in a push-the-envelope way. They said, what if we can kind of tell a feel-good story? It's more about family and about hope, but creates this whole wacky new universe with aliens and this 400 years in the future.
Let me ask you the fair question then. How much Mormon theology is in these things? Are there tenets?
Little to none.
Okay.
Little to none, other than just having that, I guess you'd call it Christian organized religion values-based sort of thing, where it's like, love your family, love thy neighbor, and this sort of stuff. That stuff's pretty obvious.
But there's not like a Mecca Jesus showing up like, now you will learn the lesson. Like, so it's
not at all.
It's a values, modest-based kind of approach.
It's somewhere between, what Hallmark tries to do and maybe what ABC Family was in the beginning before all the teenagers started getting more scandalous on their show.
Yes.
So we're somewhere in between there. But no, it's not. It doesn't hit you over the head with that stuff. It's more about, we've gotten a second, we're 400 years in the future, we've gotten a second chance at life. What do we do with it? What's most important to us? And to some people, it's family and being reunited with a family. To some people, it's redemption because they were a bit of a, screw up in their past life. So it's one of these things where it kind of brings you back around to what do you value? What is important to you?
How do we find any of the programming on BYUtv?
Well, they make it really easy because they're in most households on cable, but you're going to have to go search for that network. But they have an app. Just like you download a Netflix app, they have a BYUtv app. It's totally free. Everything is free on there once you get the free app. Okay. Or you can stream it online at BYUtv.org /extinct is our little channel online. But, you can watch it any number of ways. And even my parents went the cable route and watched it week by week, but I watched it streaming, and so many other people, connected and plugged in and wired up that way, watch it right off the website.
Yeah, I like it. I'll put the app and throw it up on the TV or.
It's good. We're really proud of it.
Yeah, you should be.
Lower budget. We shot it all in Utah, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
And
As great as Utah. I mean, you're a northern New York kid, right. Like you get fall colors and everything like that. The fall colors are the ground out there. Like it's like everything's orange and yellow
amazing,
and beautiful.
We started like last summer shooting episode 1. It was 115 degrees in southern Utah. And these like Martian looking lava rock, stuff. And then we finished in like snow on like 6,000-foot mountaintops where there's a moose running around on set. Like it was awesome.
It's such a neat idea to shoot in that part of the world because really what you're doing, and maybe you know the geography of the area, you're shooting on the bottom of the ocean.
Right.
You're in Bikini Bottom, but it's now Bikini Top. And it's just it's gorgeous. Well, how water shapes everything.
Incredibly diverse, that whole state. And I'd never been to Utah before, but 75% of our show was outside on location. Like it really puts the whole state on display. And now it's like Westworld and HBO shoots there, and this new Kevin Costner series called Yellowstone. Taylor Sheridan is shooting there now, so people are getting hip to it, and and I can't blame them. It's incredibly diverse.
It's a gorgeous, and Longmire, they don't shoot there, but they shoot in New Mexico because it's just a great look for what they do, and it doesn't detract from anything.
Not at all.
If people don't want to interact with you, they can absolutely do that on Instagram or on Twitter, and in both places you're at Collins Chad M.
That's correct.
Yeah,
yes.
And you definitely interact. I mean, that's how you and I connect, was on Twitter.
Yeah,
man, I love being able to have these kind of conversations. One, because I get something out of it, but also I just think it's cool to. I want everybody to go to YouTube and look you up and look at all the different things you've done and talked about, because there's so much in there. When you talked about the comic book thing, I got that from the things. When you talked about the playing the UFC fighter and getting your butt kicked by, I saw that on. So that stuff's out there, and there's plenty of you. But along with all of these studios doing more content and everything like that, you guys are all accessible, and I think it's great because we can all. I'd rather watch a show that my friend's in, than just some show. Yeah. I think it's cool, man.
Social media is a tricky thing for a lot of people. I don't have a huge following, so it's incredibly easy to manage for me. But my thought and opinion is like, you're going to spend an hour to watch a show that I did, and then you're going to pay it forward and leave a comment and say, hey, I really enjoyed that show.
Yeah.
I got time for you, man. Like, and again, I'm not being bombarded with 10 million of these sort of things, but the one-offs here and there consistently every day, I'm like, what a beautiful sentiment, to be connected in that way around the globe.
Absolutely.
And, the sniper movies play so well internationally, so I'm getting in touch with people from the Middle East or even Australia or the Philippines or Indonesia, South America. It's unbelievable. And to connect with these people, these fans, and these wonderful, they enjoyed what we put out there, what we created, and they let us know. And I'm like, I got a comment for you then. Like, this is no big deal. This is no skin off my back.
Right.
And I really enjoy interacting with, I don't even call them fans, they're friends.
Yeah.
It's so cool. If they ever did something that I was happy, I would give them a shout out and let them know. It's like, it's fantastic.
It is such a cool time to be able to interact. We've got fans in all kinds of countries. And And you're just like, how in the heck does someone from Uzbekistan even care what we're talking about? But there he is, and I don't know his name. He's never reached out, but there's a dude that steady clicks the play button.
Yeah,
and I love that. And there's 7 sniper movies because we love it.
Right.
We love. I answer questions on Quora all the time, and there's all these fantastical sniper questions. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, listen, being a sniper is dangerous because once you shoot, you got to move.
Right.
It's not, you don't sit there and harvest people. Like, no. It's a lot of hard work.
No, it's understanding the sniping game the way that I've been able to understand it for a billion technical advisors and stuff that I've read. It's insane. Like, it's not insane. Everyone. There's a reason why there's a washout rate at so many levels to be a sniper. It's insane.
It's insane.
The physical fitness, the mental toughness. I mean, how many people do you know who could stay perfectly still for 7 days?
Crap their pants.
Exactly, because you have to.
You have
and just to hopefully get that one crack. But then there's such a psychological aspect to it, too, where this person will never, and we explore that in the films a little bit, this person never sees the bullet coming. You have to be justified and mentally strong to be able to make that judgment call and decision each and every single time. It's toughness across the board. Yeah. And it's insane.
It's really insane. Think about. When you do, because I know guys that have done sniper things, and you lay on the ground, as comfortably as you can. And usually it's in a setup position, so it's a manned position, and a lot of times like an overwatch of a city. But you lay there for 8, 10, 12 hours, 24 hours, however long it is. They might have an order. I've done targeting packages, and that might be the vehicle for taking that person out.
Right.
And then it's like, nope, you're all good. Go back, hang out, and you're just like, you've done all of that, and never get the satisfaction, And thankfully you don't, because there's something else that happens, and you don't have to.
Yeah, in a perfect world, you're not pulling the trigger ever. Of course, but the requirements to be a sniper, everything from the field craft to, those guns are not light.
No.
They're the heaviest guns that anyone's carrying around. And I know because I'm carrying legit ones in these movies, and I'm like, dude, that's a 35-pound gun.
It's one thing to say, carry the Barrett, and you're like, I get to shoot the Barrett. It's another thing to walk up a mountain already at 10,000 feet and carry that and the ammo and food. You can't. You have to bring somebody else with you.
Absolutely.
And it's crazy. Well, listen, seriously, I want to do this again sometime when you've got time for it. But that was fancy. That was an hour easy. So,
boom.
Thank you very much for coming out and hanging out at Patty's with us.
This is a blast, man. Great conversation.